Hello, welcome to another tutorial session. My name is Michael Wetzel, Managing Director of Coreon GmbH, and I have a particular focus on the product management side of things in our company. Today I'd like to give you a little introduction, a tutorial about how to change data in a multilingual knowledge system, how to edit concepts, terms, properties, etc. We're putting quite a lot of effort into making the editing experience as user-friendly and as efficient as possible for you. So now, after a couple of years with Coreon, here in spring 2020, we've revamped the editing module, have a completely new implementation of the editing experience. And here's a little introduction for you how this looks like. So let me directly switch to the browser here. And here I'm on a database that deals a bit with wines, wine grapes, etc., etc. So we have red wine grapes, white wine grapes, etc. Here we are on a record on a concept Pinot Noir, one of the very famous wine grapes. I'd like to elaborate on that concept now. So the first thing to start with is basically to activate the edit button, the edit mode, by clicking the pencil here, so to switch into the edit mode and see all the interaction controls here. So one of the very obvious things that you'd like to do here and there is you spotted a typo, a spelling, and like to change an existing text value. So for instance, I'd like to change the term, the English term Pinot Noir, from the capital N here to a small letter n, and I simply clicked on the term and I replace the capital N with a small n, and Coreon recognized that a data value change has happened and then shows me the action bar to save the change, and that's it. So that's as easy as it can be. It's like when you click into in Microsoft Excel, when you click into an Excel cell to change the value there. So that's as easy as it can be. The next thing that you may want to do, for instance, is to add terms in other languages. So here, for instance, let's add some German terms here. So I click the Add Term button and I say a German word for that grape is Spätburgunder. And again, Coreon recognized that change, that addition, and I click Save, and that's it. So that goes as fast as it can be. Now another thing that we may want to do is, and now that we have a German term also saved here, I know that there are other German words for that grape, for instance, and therefore I can now click the Add Synonym button. I say, for instance, something like Blauburgunder, because in some regions, indeed, that grape is called Blauburgunder. And I not only want to type in that synonym word here, but I'd also like to specify that this term, Blauburgunder, particularly applies to the Switzerland region of the German-speaking countries. And so therefore I will add now a property that specifies this term applies to Switzerland. So I click the Add Property button and I select the region property and I select the value Switzerland, and I now save the term and its information that it applies to Switzerland. So this is how you add terms, how you change term values, text values, and how you add properties. Now, the next thing that you'd like to do is you'd like to add some information about that concept, about the meaning of Pinot Noir itself. So for instance, instead of adding new terms, I'd like to add, for instance, a definition. What is the Pinot Noir grape? I can write my own definition. I can also copy it, for instance, from Wikipedia. Let's have a look in Wikipedia, and indeed there is an article about Pinot Noir. So I, for instance, copy that paragraph here, go back to Coreon, and now I'm adding a property, and I select from the available properties for concepts, I select definition, and I paste the value right now copied from Wikipedia. Could save now the record and fine, but I'd like to take the opportunity to mention another thing. In Coreon we can also support something like inline formatting, so italics, bold, etc. formatting. And For instance, I'd like to mark the string vitis vinifera in italics formatting. So for this, we have a button here to apply this, but I'm a kind of a power user. I know the formatting code, so it's just the underscore. And at the end of the formatting, I also add the underscore. So we support the typical Markdown syntax. May sound a bit cryptic with these codes, but when you edit a couple of values, then very soon you're familiar with these codes to change the formatting. And if you don't remember, just click the Markdown button here, and then you have, like in Microsoft Word, basically a toolbar available. So now I save the record here. And now we see the definition has been saved, and you see that here vitis vinifera is rendered in italics formatting. Another typical thing that you may want to do to elaborate on a concept, you may want to add an image. So how does this grape in real life look like? So for that, we'd also add another property here, but not a definition now, but here, for instance, a property that is called illustration. And for that, for an image, I get the choose file button here, and I browse to my local Windows File Explorer here, and I select the image file. So that's a JPEG file, and I select this. I can add a caption or not for that image, and now I save the data record here, and now we have the image file available in that concept. So this is a bit how you edit and change data values properties in a concept in Coreon. So far so good. This was one of the main aspects that I'd like to show to you. Now the other thing that I'd like to show to you today is to create a new concept. So now we've changed and enhance the existing concept here. So for instance, let's add another concept. So here, when we have a look in the concept map here, we have, for instance, also some instruments, tableware, about wine glasses, cooler, etc. So for instance, let's navigate to the concept wine glass. So you see we remain in the edit mode. So as a maintainer, I can immediately continue with editing here. So for instance, wine glass, you know what a wine glass is, obviously. For instance, here I'd like to say what are the typical components of a wine glass. So we have things like the base, the stem, and then the balloon or so, don't know what the real word for it is. So let's add, for instance, some additional concepts about the base and the stem. So for instance, I'd like to add underneath the concept wine glass, I'd like to create a new concept now, a new narrower concept. And I can select a new narrower concept of the type generic. Or I'd like to say now my narrower concept that I'm about to create is a part of a wine glass. So I'd like to select the type is part of here. And now I now can add basically the terms for that new concept. You see here in the concept map that basically a placeholder node is already inserted. So terms. So for instance, let's say the stem that combines the base and the upper part of a wine glass, that is in English called stem, and in German it's called Stiel, for instance. And that's it. So we basically have a form and we create the concept. And that's it. So you now see that underneath wine glass we have another new concept, which is of the relation partitive, so which is a kind of a member of the wine glass. And we have already two terms in there. Or just to show again, so I'd like to wine glass, I'd also like to add the concept base. So and I'd like to add another partitive concept here. So for instance, base, and in German language maybe that's called Fuß, something along that thing, of a wine glass. And now I create the concept, and that's as easy as it can be. Yeah? So now we've created basically two more narrow concepts to wine glass, and we are already having two terms in there. Could now add synonyms, properties, images again and again. So that goes pretty fast. And what's also important to mention, that basically you elaborate on the concept map while you are adding the new concepts, because you simply say here underneath base I'd like to create the new concept, and then it's saved immediately within your concept system. So far a bit the little demo of how the new editing in Coreon works as of spring summer 2020. Before I say bye-bye, just to remember what we've learned today, namely how to add terms, synonyms, properties. You've seen how to create new concepts, and you've also seen how to select the type of a hierarchical relation. Very difficult word, really have to say. Okay, before I say bye-bye, as always, feel free to contact me under my email address here. Follow us or myself on Twitter. Learn more about the impact and the potential of multilingual knowledge systems on our blog, multilingualknowledge.com. And of course, feel free, and we are happy to see you subscribing to our newsletter. It was a pleasure. Thank you from my side, and enjoy the day. Bye bye.